Happy birthday to our special guest today, Padmasambhava. This is Edward Reeves' Buddhist Books Podcast, episode 86, Tipiṭaka part 25. I hope. I'm flying blind here, just going purely based on memory. Hopefully that's correct. Happy Guru Rinpoche Day. Happy birthday to our special guest today, Padmasambhava. You can see I got a little dressed up. Got the lapis lazuli rocking. Now, of course, on this channel, we're starting at the beginning. Wow, the wind's picking up. Maybe it really will rain today. We'll see. Okay, so yeah, on this channel, Edward Reeves Buddhist Books Podcast, we're starting at the beginning of Buddhism. With the first basket, then we're going to do second basket, then third basket, then the earliest Mahayana Sutras, the middle Mahayana Sutras. We'll do a bit of commentary on the Theravada, courtesy of Bodhigosa and some others. And then we'll get into the later Mahayana Sutras, and then we'll get into the Vajrayana Sutras, and then another 200-300 years after that is when they start really emphasizing Padmasambhava. So it's gonna be a while. I might be full gray or silver by then. But if you'd like to skip ahead and hear me recite a bit of Padmasambhava's life story, you can click here. I will create a playlist after this moment in my present time, before your present moment in this present time. Time is weird, I know, especially when technology is involved, YouTube and what have you. Even watches kind of mess up our sense of time, don't they? So yes, that playlist that I pointed to, I'm going to create so far, right now. Ooh, more noise, please. In present day, my present day, there are 2 videos on there in which I recite 6 of the cantos of The Life and Liberation of Padmasambhava by Yeshe Tsogyo, as channeled by somebody, a treasure finder. You know how it goes. So yeah, that's that. I think that's about it for that. Just on a personal note, the practices that my dad raised me with were not focused so much on deities, not focused so much on scriptures, focused more on meditation and chanting in each of the spheres, and a bit of prayerful devotion and that kind of thing. And then, I mean, for lack of any better word, magical practice. He had a dorja. It wasn't this dorja. His is over there. But yeah, working with the dorja in different ways, healing, astral projection, this kind of thing. Sort of the New Age end of the spectrum of Tibetan Tantric Buddhism, but not Shambhalaya, but probably adjacent. He probably, any of the people that he knew and practiced with would probably resonate with them. Anyway, so yes, then later in my own personal research, I came to discover the existence of Padmasambhava. So then, by virtue of his having taught everything to Yeshe, where Padmasambhava goes, so does Yeshe go. So why don't we just keep her there? Yes, and so that was when Nyingma Buddhism was established. And the closest that I could find when I started researching all the different forms of Tibetan Tantric Buddhism, monastic and otherwise, was Nyingma. And so I started working with Vajraguru and doing the Vajraguru chant and connecting with Vajraguru and that kind of thing much more recently, just about 5-6 years ago. And, getting as much information as I could about that, as I felt that it tied in with the practice that I had been raised with. And that's why, generally speaking, I don't identify as anything so much anymore, just as a person on the path. I don't really like all the connotations and implications and things that come along with identifying with something. Oh, so you're a this or a that. Oh, okay, what level are you? It implies a lot. It implies a hierarchical structure. It implies a superiority and inferiority on whatever level. So I just say, no, I'm not any of those things. I'm just a dude. Just pay no attention to this. But this does happen to be a Nyingma monk's robe, a non-monastic monk's robe, from what I understand. So, that all being said, we ended up over here at the beginning, so we'll dial it back, and we'll get back to the early Buddhism, pre-sectarian, early Theravada, and continue reading the rules with Saṅghàdisesa 9. If this is your first time seeing me, click here instead. You can start with Parajika 1. It's really nice how it starts, if you haven't seen that one. For about 10-12 minutes, I go into like a synopsis of all those things you just saw, except for the one over here, which we went into that yesterday. But so I break all that down, and then we dive into the very beginning of the Tipiṭaka, which pleasantly enough, starts out with a very interesting and nice story and kind of sets up the whole situation, the whole scenario in which Lord Buddha isn't going to just start out giving you a list of 100 rules. He's going to wait until these issues come up and then give the rules as they come up so that the monks can see the results of someone doing these acts, and they can understand why the rule is being given. So, and that all had to do with ensuring the longevity of the Dharma, ensuring the longevity of his teachings and his order, doing it this way in order to ensure the longevity of his order. Because someone asked him, I believe it was Amitabha, or no, Ananda, not Amitabha. Ananda had asked him, what makes the difference between an order that lasts and one that doesn't last? And he said, well, one that lasts has a set of rules and teachings, and they chant them and they remember them, and it goes forward. And the ones that don't last, the master goes around and kind of micromanages everybody's path and just kind of helps that individual to attain enlightenment, and then so those only last a few centuries. But the ones that last for millennia function like this. So Ananda says, well, then give us the rules. And he says, not today. I'm going to be giving you the rules as it comes up. And then it starts to come up, and so then you're set up to start. Oh, okay. Rule number 1, rule number 2. This is why that rule exists, and so on and so forth. Okay, so here we are, and happy birthday to you. Shall we? Formal meeting, Saṅghàdisesa, part 9. At one time, the enlightened one, the Lord, was staying at Rajagaha in the bamboo grove at the squirrels' feeding place. We've been here before, haven't we? At that time, as the monks who were followers of Metteyya and Bhumaja, remember them, were descending from the slope of the Vulture's Peak, they saw a he-goat copulating with a nanny goat. Seeing them, they said, quote, "Look here, your reverences. Let us call this he-goat Daba, the Malian." Daba, the Malian, yes. That's rude. calling a goat Daba the Malian. You remember the issues that came up last time. If not, you haven't heard the previous episode. It's okay. This is Daba the Malian. Actually, it's Vairochana or Vairocana, depending on who you ask. But he's playing the role of Daba the Malian, who attained perfection when he was 7 years old under Lord Buddha. Yes, and call that... Oh, yes, okay. So... let us call this he-goat Daba the Malian, and this nanny-goat Metiya, the nun. Thus we will express it. Quote, formerly, your reverences, quote within quotes, formerly, your reverences, we spoke to Daba, the Malian, about what was heard. And now we have ourselves seen him sinning with the nun Metiya, end quote. These gave that he-goat the name of Daba the Malian, and called that nanny-goat Metiya, the nun. These told the monks, quote, formerly, your reverences, we spoke to Daba the Malian about what was heard, but now we ourselves have seen him sinning with Daba, the nun, end quote. See what's happening here? All right. These told the monks, continuing, the monks said, quote, your reverences, do not speak like that. The venerable Daba the Malian would not do that, end quote. Then these monks told this matter to the Lord. The Lord, on that occasion, in that connection, having had the order of monks convened, asked the venerable Daba the Malian, quote, do you remember, Daba, having to have done as these monks say? End quote. Quote, the Lord knows with regard to me, he said. A second time the Lord asked him, he replied the same. A third time the Lord said to the venerable Daba the Malian, did you do this? You know me, Daba the Malian said. Quote, do not, Daba, 3 dots, end quote, dot, space, dot, quote, dot, space, dot. So basically, he said, don't talk in circles. Answer, yes or no, did you do it? How much more when I was awake, he said, right. So you remember the opening to yesterday's, the little clip at the beginning? I have not had sexual intercourse even in a dream. How much less so when I was awake? Or how much more so have I not had it when I was awake? Then the Lord addressed the monks, quote, because of this, monks, you should put questions to these monks, quote. Having spoken thus, the Lord, rising up from his seat, entered the vihara. Then these monks put questions to the monks who were followers of Metiya and Bhumajaka. These, being questioned by the monks, told this matter to the monks. Quote, did you not defame the venerable Daba, the Malian, your reverences, with a charge of falling into defeat, taking up some point as a pretext in a legal question really belonging to something else? End quote. It is so, your reverences, they said. Then those who were modest monks became annoyed, vexed, and angry, and said, quote, how can the monks who are followers of followers of Metiya and Bhumajaka, defame the venerable Daba, the Malian, with dots, to something else? End quote. Then these monks told this matter to the Lord. He said, quote, is it true, as is said, that you monks defamed Daba the Malian with dots to something else? It is true, Lord, they said. The enlightened one, the Lord, rebuked them, saying, quote, how can you, foolish men, defame Daba the Malian with dots to something else? Those who are new to this channel, the dots refer to, yes, those... the Pali Text Society. Yes, that's fun. Often replaces text with 3 dots, I guess to make the books shorter when said text has been said before. So this is something, of course, in this style of writing. They often repeat whole paragraphs of what's being said. So that's what's happening there when you hear me say dots or 3 dots. Okay, yes. Foolish men, it is not for the benefit of unbelievers, 3 dots. In those 3 dots as something to the effect of it is to the detriment of believers and non-believers, and it causes wavering in some. And thus, monks, this course of training should be set forth. Whatever monk, malignant, malicious, and ill-tempered, should defame a monk with a charge involving defeat, taking up some point as a pretext in a legal question really belonging to something else, saying, thus perhaps may I drive him away from this Brahma life. Then, if afterward, he, being pressed or not being pressed, the legal question turning out to belong to something different, if the monk confesses his malice, and confesses having taken up some point as a pretext, it is an offense entailing a formal meeting of the order. Okay, so they illustrated it pretty well. They decided, we're going to call that goat Dava the Mali, and we're going to call that goat, the nun, and say, we saw them copulating. But that's not in reference to the thing they're actually talking about. It's in reference to something else. They thought they were being clever, that they found a loophole. Loophole closed. Whatever means. You remember what whatever means? In a legal question really belonging to something else means either it is an offense of a different kind or it is a legal question of a different kind. How is a legal question connected with a different kind of legal question? The legal question arising out of disputes may belong to something different, to a legal question arising out of censure, to a legal question arising out of transgressions, to a legal question arising out of obligations, a legal question arising out of censure, 3 dots, a legal question arising out of transgressions, 3 dots. A legal question arising out of obligations may belong to something different, to a legal question arising out of disputes, to a legal question arising out of transgressions, to a legal question arising out of obligations. Thus, a legal question may belong to a different legal question. How is a legal question connected with a legal question? A question arising out of disputes is connected with a question arising out of disputes. A question arising out of censure is connected with a question arising out of censure. A question arising out of transgression may be connected with a question arising out of transgression, or it may be connected with something else. How is a question arising out of transgression connected with something other than a question arising out of transgression? An offense involving defeat through sexual intercourse may belong to something else, to an offense involving defeat through taking something that was not given, to an offense involving defeat through taking up human form, to an offense involving defeat through claiming states of furtherment. Taking up human form, I believe that means murder. An offense involving defeat through taking something that was not given, dots. An offense involving defeat through taking up human form, more dots. An offense involving defeat through claiming states of furtherment may belong to something else, to an offense involving defeat through sexual intercourse, to an offense involving defeat through taking something that was not given, to an offense involving defeat through taking up human form. Thus, a question arising out of transgression may belong to something other than a question arising out of transgression. And how can a question arising out of transgression belong to a question arising out of transgression? An offense involving defeat through sexual intercourse may belong to an offense involving defeat through sexual intercourse. 3 dots. An offense involving defeat through claiming states of furtherment may belong to an offense involving defeat through claiming states of furtherment. Thus does a question arising out of transgression belong to a question arising out of transgression. A question arising out of obligations may belong to a question arising out of obligations. Thus may a legal question belong to a legal question. Well, that's clear, right? Taking up some point as a pretext. A pretext means that there are 10 pretexts. The pretext of birth, the pretext of name, the pretext of family, the pretext of characteristic, the pretext of offense, the pretext of a bowl, the pretext of a robe, the pretext of a teacher, the pretext of a preceptor, the precept of lodgings. The pretext, precept, pretext. Okay, he was saying pretext 9 times, then he said precept of lodgings. Maybe he was dictating. Maybe it's a typo. Maybe it's Maybelline. The pretext of birth means a noble is seen committing a matter involving defeat. Seeing another noble, he reprimands him, saying, "A noble is seen by me. You are one who has committed a matter involving defeat. You are not a recluse. You are not a true recluse," if you believe the parentheses. "You are not a true son of the Sakyans. There is no holding the observance day ceremony with you." Those emphasized words holding and ceremony also in parentheses. "Or the ceremony at the termination of the reigns, or the ceremony performed by a chapter of monks." End quote. For each speech there is an offense entailing a formal meeting of the order. So if you accuse one nobleman because you saw a different nobleman doing something, right? Okay. A Brahmin is seen, 3 dots. A merchant is seen, 3 dots. A low caste man is seen, 3 dots. For each speech there is an offense entailing a formal meeting of the order. So in the dots, there's that whole same situation. He sees a Brahmin, he accuses a different Brahmin. He sees a merchant, he accuses a different merchant. So that it's a mistake of identity based on caste or job. The pretext of name means one who is a Buddha Rakita is seen, dots. One who is a Dhamma Rakita is seen, dots. One who is a Saṅghà Rakita is seen committing a matter involving defeat, seeing another Saṅghà Rakita, dots. For each speech there is an offense entailing a formal meeting of the order. Or in the example of naming the goats after the same name. The pretext of a family means a Gautama is seen, dots. A Moggallana is seen, dots. A Kokana is seen. A Vasita is seen committing an offense involving defeat. Seeing another Visata, or Gautama, or what have you, dots. For each speech there is an offense entailing a formal meeting of the order. Okay. The pretext of characteristic means a tall man is seen, dots. A short man is seen, dots. A dark man is seen, dots. So if you see a dark man do something like murder or steal or a monk having sex when you're not supposed to because you're a monk, or a monk claiming to be enlightened, and then you accuse a different man who also is dark, you get the wrong man. That's called racial profiling.
You guys are racial profiling?
In our modern vernacular. That is forbidden by the Buddha, specifically named. Ahead of his time. That's all I'm saying. In some ways. In other ways, he's still pre-1960s. It's okay. It's 2,600 years ago. Is it okay? Maybe, maybe not. Yes, a fair man is seen committing an offense involving defeat. Dots, yes, also. For each speech, there is an offense entailing a formal meeting of the order. So in the previous one, it was about false accusation, just out of malice, just out of wanting them to be out of here. In this, he's covering false accusation, intentional or accidental, although he did say with malice in your heart. So, well, regardless. Yes, based on mistaken identity because he was tall or because whatever, he looked like his cousin. The pretext of an offense means one is seen committing a slight offense, and if he reprimands him for a matter involving defeat, saying, "You are not a true recluse," dots. For each speech there is an offense entailing a formal meeting of the order. So if somebody does something like that would be considered a wrongdoing, like petting the hair of a eunuch, first thing that came to mind, and someone said, you had sex with that eunuch. No, I was just petting her hair, or whatever pronoun they prefer. Then that entails a formal meeting of the order because you're exaggerating the offense and to the level of defeat. The 4 defeats: murder, sex, stealing, pretending to be more enlightened than you are. The pretext of a bowl means one carrying a copper bowl is seen, dots. One carrying a bowl of hide is seen, dots. One carrying a cracked bowl is seen committing a matter involving defeat, dots. For each speech, there is an offense entailing a formal meaning of the order. So, a monk, you see a monk with a bowl do something absolutely wrong, and you accuse a different bowl who also has it. You accuse a different monk who also has a bowl, right? The pretext of a robe means one wearing robes taken from the dust heap is seen, dots. One wearing householder's robes is seen, committing a matter involving defeat, dots. For each speech, there is an offense entailing a formal meaning of the order, mistaken identity based on what they're wearing, or presumably all of these things. I saw a man wearing that kind of robe with that color skin, carrying a bowl from that family, and he was tall. That was his cousin. They're both in the same, order. They have the same robe, and they look very similar. So, get it right, right? The pretext of a teacher means the pupil of such and such a one is seen committing a matter involving defeat, dots. For each speech, there is an offense entailing a formal meaning of the order. The pretext of a preceptor means the novice of such and such a one is seen committing a matter involving defeat, dots. For each speech, there is an offense entailing a formal meaning of the order. The pretext of lodgings means a dweller in such and such lodgings is seen committing a matter involving defeat, dots. For each speech, there is an offense entailing a formal meaning of the order. Translator's note. With a charge involving defeat means, here we go. This is actually the text. With a charge involving defeat means one of the four, so it says here this is the same as the formal meaning number 8. A question arising out of obligations. Okay, with a charge involving defeat. Right, one of the 4 defeats that I just mentioned. Taking up some point as a pretext means taking up a certain pretext among these pretexts. If a monk confesses his malice means, dots, same as the formal meaning, number 8, right? Because of this is called an offense entailing a formal meaning of the order. So if the monk admits that he falsely accused because it was also a tall guy, then there's a formal meaning of the order. A monk is seen committing an offense which entails a formal meaning of the order. In the offense which entails a formal meaning of the order, there is a wrong view as to an offense which entails a formal meaning of the order. If he reprimands him for a matter involving defeat, saying, quote, "You are not a true recluse, dots, nor a ceremony performed by a chapter of monks," end quote. Thus, it is connected with a different kind of offense, and a pretext is taken up. For each speech, there is an offense entailing a formal meaning of the order. A monk is seen committing an offense which entails a formal meaning of the order. In the offense which entails a formal meaning of the order, there is the wrong view that it is a grave offense, dots. There is the wrong view that it is an offense requiring expiation, which we haven't gotten to yet. Presumably that's later on in these books. Dots. There is the wrong view that it is an offense which ought to be confessed. We'll get to those, no doubt. Probably there'll be more of them. Again, trying to find patterns. There were 4 big rules, 13 almost as big rules. So by the time we get down to something that ought to be confessed, it'll probably be hundreds. Anyway, dots. There is the wrong view that it is an offense of wrongdoing. Dots. There is the wrong view that it is an offense of evil speech. If he reprimands him, dots. For each speech there is an offense entailing a formal meaning of the order. So you have a formal meaning of the order whenever one monk falsely accuses another monk. All right? A monk is seen committing a grave offense, dots. An offense requiring expiation, dots. An offense which ought to be confessed, dots. An offense of wrongdoing, dots. An offense of evil speech. In the evil speech, there is a wrong view of evil speech. If he reprimands him, dots. For each speech, there is an offense entailing a formal meaning of the order. A monk is seen committing an offense of evil speech. There is the wrong view that in the offense of evil speech, there is an offense entailing a formal meaning of the order. There is the wrong view that the evil speech that in the evil speech there is a grave offense, an offense requiring expiation, an offense which ought to be confessed, an offense of wrongdoing. If he reprimands him, dots. For each speech there is an offense entailing a formal meeting of the order. Beginning severally, the series, with this exception, should be put together. That's one of those titles that's also a table of contents. But what comes after it is surprisingly short, so let's see what happens. A monk is seen committing an offense entailing a formal meeting of the order. In the offense which entails a formal meeting of the order, there is a wrong view as to an offense which entails a formal meeting of the order. If he causes him to be reprimanded for an offense involving defeat, saying, quote, "You are not a true recluse," true being in parentheses, 3 dots, end quote, 3 dots. For each speech there is an offense entailing a formal meeting of the order. Are we having fun yet? A monk is seen committing, we're almost done. A monk is seen committing an offense entailing a formal meeting of the order. In the offense which entails a formal meeting of the order, there is a wrong view that it is a grave offense, 3 dots. A wrong view that it is an offensive evil speech, dots. A monk is seen committing an offensive evil speech, dots. There is a wrong view that it is an offensive wrongdoing. If he causes him to be reprimanded, different from reprimanding him himself, dots. For each speech there is an offense entailing a formal meeting of the order. There is no offense if, thinking what is true, he reprimands him or causes him to be reprimanded if he is out of his mind or if he's a beginner. So it's only if it's intentional. If someone says, "I think I saw you do a bad thing," and it's like, no, that wasn't me, that was my cousin, also has the same color skin, also same height, wearing the same robe. But if a monk intentionally says, "I saw you, I saw that robe, I saw that bowl," but the monk knows it wasn't that monk, it was a different monk, or in the case of the example, he knows that it was a goat that he named Dava the Malian. Anyway, told is the 9th offense entailing a formal meeting of the order. Well, now we know. So, real quick, Twin Peaks fans know that this is a shout out to Ani. Hope that your process of papyrusing is going all right. We got into the part with Anubis on the feather yet? Ooh, that part's... No, it's a different Ani. Annie in this case. So, yes, I want to close with a recital that I did, I think about 7 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, of what was purported to be the song that Padmasambhava sang to the king, the Dharma king, and his court, and the people there in Tibet when he was leaving. And Yeshe Tsogyal, of course, was said to have had a photographic memory. So she memorized every word, exact word of this song that Padmasambhava sang. And then 1,000 or so years later, a treasure finder contacted Yeshe Tsogyal on the astral and she told it to him, or something like that. So that's something that's not unusual in Vajrayana Buddhism, in Tibetan Vajrayana Buddhism. I don't know if it's specifically that. We'll learn together if that was something going on in Nalanda University, if that's something that goes on in Japan, in Shingon Buddhism, or if it's something unique to Tibetan Tantric Buddhism. There is an allowance for that. And of course, people can come along and be false ones or true ones. Those familiar with, for example, the Catholic Church, they say no new revelations. So when Joseph Smith comes along, or when those guys up in Munster, Germany, or whoever comes along and says, I've got something new. God said something new. They say, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. You're a liar. Yeah, but he did though. No, he didn't. You're a liar. So people like Joan of Arc had a hard time until their continued popularity over centuries forced them to make her a saint and admit that they were wrong about excommunicating her, stuff like that. But in Tibetan Buddhism, there's allowances for that. Sometimes someone comes along and they're channeling wisdom. Sometimes there's a book about Padmasambhava that Yeshe wrote and memorized that has been lost. No copies of it are left, but somebody read it in a dream, and they wrote it down, and now here it is, and they don't sign their own name, they sign Yeshe Togyo. So I'm not saying that that's good or bad. I'm just saying that that exists. Whereas this, on the other hand, this is sort of a different matter. This was, might have been misremembered. It might have been written 200 or 300 years after Lord Buddha passed away, similar to the Gospels in the New Testament of the Bible. They might not be the exact words that Jesus said. These might not be the exact words that Lord Buddha said, but they are the closest we have to the exact words this here. And of course, Padmasambhava is a different individual from Lord Buddha, though they're both said to be related to Amitabha by people much later than this. It's a little confusing, I know, but nonetheless, I was very moved by this particular song that Padmasambhava was said to have sang sung. Isn't that a type of phone? As he was leaving, or right before he left Tibet. So for today, we'll suspend our disbelief, right, for a moment, so that we can experience this in its wholeness as a devout person might experience the listening to of these words, because they are good words, I'd say. So I will get to that after I say the prayer, but before we do the closing shot of the books and the drums, right? So here we go. So you know what's coming up next, right? We're all clear? Any questions? Feel free to comment below, and do please, if you're so inclined, it does help the algorithm to know that, this stuff should be viewed by more people who are interested in these things. If you do that. Anyway. To the north and to the south, to the east and to the west, to the spirits of light among us and to the spirits below, we send out our reverent love and compassion. May all beings be happy. May all beings be serene. May all beings be in peace. Until next time.
I am a yogi, beyond word, thought, and description, who journeys on the plane of the view free from extremes. When I journey on the plane of this view, I journey while regarding appearance and existence as Dharmakaya. I am a yogi of luminous appearance and emptiness, who journeys on the plane of the meditation of empty bliss. When I journey on the plane of this meditation, I journey beyond meditation and post-meditation. I am a yogi of self-liberated perception, who journeys on the plane of spontaneous conduct. When I journey on the plane of this conduct, I journey in equal taste, without accepting or rejecting. I am a yogi of self-existing non-fabrication, who journeys on the plane of spontaneously accomplished fruition. When I journey on the plane of this fruition, I journey free from hope and fear. I am a yogi, beyond word, thought, and description, who journeys over the pass of the view free from extremes. When I journey over the pass of this view, I journey beyond meditation throughout day and night. I am a yogi of luminous appearance and emptiness, who journeys over the pass of meditation of empty bliss. When I journey over the pass of this meditation, I journey free from dullness and agitation. I am a yogi of self-liberated perception, who journeys over the pass of spontaneous conduct. When I journey over the pass of this conduct, I journey while sowing the seeds of omniscience. I am a yogi of self-existing non-fabrication, who journeys over the pass of spontaneously accomplished fruition. When I journey over the pass of this fruition, I am the Buddha of perfected realization. I am a yogi beyond word, thought, and description, who journeys down the slope of the view free from extremes. When I journey down the slope of this view, I dwell in the state of non-arising dharmata. I am a yogi of luminous appearance and emptiness, who journeys down the slope of the meditation of empty bliss. When I journey down the slope of this meditation, I dwell in the state of undistracted non-meditation. I am a yogi of self-liberated perception, who journeys down the slope of spontaneous conduct. When I journey down the slope of this conduct, I act according to the words of the Sugātas. I am a yogi of self-existing non-fabrication, who journeys down the slope of spontaneously accomplished fruition. When I journey down the slope of this fruition, I am the Buddha whose stream of being is purified. I am a yogi beyond word, thought, and description, who journeys to the place of the view free from extremes. When I journey to the place of this view, samsara and nirvana are of the same nature. I am a yogi of luminous appearance and emptiness, who journeys to the place of the meditation of emptiness bliss. When I take the journey to the place of this meditation, the nature of thought is wisdom. I am a yogi of self-liberated perception, who journeys to the place of spontaneous conduct. When I journey to the place of this conduct, appearance and existence have the nature of a mandala. I am a yogi of self-existing non-fabrication, who journeys to the place of spontaneously accomplished fruition. When I journey to the place of this fruition, everything is the nature of Buddhahood. Once you realize the intent of this song, samsara is nothing to be rejected, and nirvana is nothing to be accomplished.